Shabbat Shalom again. As you can imagine, I think a lot about ritual. As a parent of two young children, one of whom transitioned this week from sleeping in a crib to her very own big girl bed, I think a lot about the rituals of our everyday lives, bedtime, mealtime, and the ways that we mark life's other fixed times and transitions. Of course, I think a lot about particularly Jewish ritual too. As clergy, I find great fulfillment in partnering with families to craft meaningful life cycle moments and rituals like B'nai Mitzvah and weddings and, yes, even funerals. We carefully consider each ritual component of holiday worship throughout the year and strive to create Shabbat opportunities that are joyful, inspiring, and connecting both the services here in Perlman Sanctuary as well as opportunities to celebrate Shabbat at home or elsewhere. This week's Torah portion offers us the source text for the blessing ritual a parent traditionally bestows upon their children on Shabbat, often at home around the Shabbat dinner table. You may be familiar with these words. Perhaps your parent or grandparent or childhood clergy blessed you in this way, or you may have blessed your own children and grandchildren in a similar way. It begins, Yesimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim and Menasheh. May God make you like Ephraim and Menasheh. The ritual continues in a more familiar way. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God turn towards you and grant you peace. This traditional blessing ritual is intended to express the wish that our children will embody the best qualities of their ancestors who came before them. Then it continues with the familiar threefold benediction, a timeless wish for well-being and peace, commonly recited at joyful occasions, Shabbat included. Interestingly, for a faith tradition that so frequently stakes its claim as descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, why then, asks the commentators, does the Shabbat blessing ritual for our children borrow language from this week's Torah portion about Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Menasheh? They're certainly lesser-known biblical characters compared to our forefathers and our foremothers. Why do we bless our children in the name of Ephraim and Menasheh? What special qualities did they manifest that made them worthy of a weekly prayer that our children be like them? For that answer, we need to look back through the book of Genesis. For those familiar with the text, you know that from the very beginning, biblical sibling relationships have always been associated with conflict and envy. Consider the first siblings, Cain and Abel. Cain killing Abel because God accepted Abel's sacrifice but rejected Cain's. Or Jacob and Esau, Jacob stealing Esau's birthright, resulting in conflict so dramatic that Esau threatens to kill his brother Jacob. Later, Jacob's 11 sons grow jealous of their brother Joseph, devising a plan to convince Jacob that Joseph had been murdered, but fortunately, they sell Joseph to a tribe of passing Ishmaelites instead. Again and again, Lador Vador, sibling relationships in our Bible so often are problematic, rife with conflict, jealousy, and as they say in the Talmud, ickiness. That is, until we meet Ephraim and Menasheh. As we read this week, Ephraim and Menasheh had the potential end setting for a similar type of strife as Cain and Abel, and Jacob and Esau, and Jacob's sons. But they choose to be different. In this week's Torah portion, Jacob, nearing the end of his life, is visited by Joseph, who brings along his boys, Ephraim and Menasheh, to say their final goodbyes. Knowing that he was on his deathbed, Jacob turns to Ephraim and Menasheh to offer them a blessing, a similar blessing of land and progeny that our biblical ancestors blessed each generation before them. But instead of placing his favored right hand on the older son Menasheh's head, Jacob places his right hand on Ephraim's head, bucking the birth order and demonstrating his favoritism. The same Jacob who supplanted his own older brother once again puts the younger before the older, perpetuating a problematic theme in Genesis. As one modern teacher explains, although this could have caused Menasheh, the firstborn, to feel animosity towards his brother Ephraim, and it could have soured their relationship, there remained a true brotherly camaraderie and love between them. Therefore, teaches Rabbi Laura Geller, perhaps we invoke Ephraim and Menasheh because these are the first two siblings in the Bible who do not fight. With Ephraim and Menasheh, the family pathology that unfolds in the book of Genesis, in which siblings struggle with one another, finally comes to an end. They teach us that we do not have to fight over blessings. There are enough to go around. In other words, Ephraim and Menasheh choose loving kindness, compromise, and peace. They bravely choose a different path, not that of conflict and pettiness like many who came before them, but a more productive way of living. And we can too. We must. As we enter this new secular year, I pray that each of us behave this year in a way worthy of being ancestors, not just of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, but the descendants of Ephraim and Menasheh too. In all that we say, in all that we do, we too can choose to pursue peace always. To do the difficult work of ending destructive trends in our own families, in our country, and in the ways we interact with the planet and the wider world community. Choosing to make the world better by treating others with empathy and compassion, rather than giving in to evil inclination and simply accepting harmful dynamics because it's just how things are. Simcha Elohim ke'Ephraim u'Menasheh. May we all be like Ephraim and Menasheh. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may our actions merit that coming true. Shabbat Shalom.